communal clashes, farmer herdsmen clashes, kidnap for ransom, and unconstitutional change of government in our continent. Let me therefore, on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, express our profound gratitude to the Chief of Defense Staff, General Irabor, for this laudable project, which no doubt has the potentials of enhancing the capacity of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs to deliver on its mandate of peace building and crisis management. The Early Warning System Center will surely feed into and provide strategic support for the African peace and security architecture of the African Union. The output of the center will no doubt contribute to the silencing of the guns in the continent. Mr. Chairman, as you are aware, early warning mechanisms have become the global standard for crisis prevention, management, and mitigation. The establishment of this center would therefore increase the nation's capacity for crisis prevention by helping identify and responding to potential security threats. For the Institute, this center challenges you to redouble your efforts in capacity building and research output, especially in the areas of crisis management, preventive diplomacy, promotion of peace and security, as well as enhance your ability to give early signals and also share intelligence and information with other countries and institutions of like mind, especially within the African continent. Through intelligence and information sharing, these early warning mechanisms will surely be of immense benefit to the fight against insurgencies, extreme violence, terrorism, herdsmen clashes, and other communal clashes, as well as provide prevention and mitigation. This will no doubt go a long way, like I said, to silence the guns in the continent. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to set the tone for who is going to tell us more on how we're going to achieve this of early warning systems. I therefore would like to seize this opportunity to welcome you as the DG and to say that this is just the beginning of our fight against insurgency. It starts from early warning. So once again, I welcome you and thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Your Excellency. If I may just inform the cameramen that some of your colleagues at the back have complained about being blocked. So please, if you could just sort yourself out. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if you take a peek at the program, this is a point where I invite the chairman of this occasion for a remark. However, with the kind permission of the Director General and the distinguished personalities on the high table, may I present a few words concerning our chairman today. He has signaled to me to say no, and as those of my colleagues in the Institute know, I recently had an eye surgery. I'm not saying very clearly. Prince Julie Adelusi Adelui, OFR, MNI, former Honorable Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. precisely Minister of Health. He is a lawyer. He is a pharmacist. Most people will associate him more than anything else with Julie Pharmacy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, way back in the day, this royalty before you was actually a student union activist. He has led so many delegations to confront the military. General Yakubu Gowon is still alive today and can confirm. It is interesting that he is seated so comfortably beside another general today. He is a member of our governing board. If you look at the records of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, we made great strides when His Royal Highness was a member of our board. A philanthropist par excellence. They asked him, "You've gone back to your pharmaceutical practice?" He said, "Yes, but my law chambers still remain open." Ladies and gentlemen, guess what the predominant work of that chambers was doing? Going to the prisons and setting prisoners that are unduly, unjustly incarcerated free. He wears many hats. Chairman MTN stands out, and for good reason. Under his watch, MTN had redirected its corporate social responsibilities to target some of Nigeria's most vulnerable people. A lot of work was done by His Royal Highness during COVID-19, at a time when everybody hid behind the walls of their houses. You will find this distinguished gentleman on the street reaching out to the most vulnerable amongst us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, he remains a very, very veritable mentor for young researchers and academics, not just in this institute, but far beyond. Scholarships, supports, studentships, too numerous to mention, is what people have enjoyed from the chairman of today's event. He has also been in the forefront of the issues concerning our national security. And so, nobody perhaps is more befitting than our chairman on a day like this when we are celebrating our early warning system. With this very, very few out of so many words I would have wanted to say, I invite the chairman of this occasion to please take the podium for his remarks. Chairman, sir.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we have flogged the protocol sufficiently, and with your kind permission, I'd like to go straight to make some comments. It is quite true that people in this institute refer to me as an ancestor. The last time I was here, everybody kept referring to me as an ancestor. They are forgiven. It's also true that I have been associated with this institute since 1963. I was one of the very young people invited to the formal inauguration of this institute. Not because of anything special about me, but at that time we were in university politics, and I was vice president for international affairs, doing a luta continua all over the place. And I think it was kind of the institute to have invited the National Union of Nigerian students at that time, and therefore I represented them. Since that time, I have been fortunate to have been connected with the matters ongoing in this institute, like the inauguration of this hall, like the commission of most of the major things here. I have been permitted by God to be an eyewitness. And at the end of it, I say to you, I am very proud to be associated with the institute. Today, I look around. This hall has been witness to so many lectures, seminars, retreats, and I look around and I see the kaleidoscope of persons gathered here today. The quality is very intimidating. If you look at the inner circle here, it is filled with people in uniform, and I am told that you are more intimidating when you are in uniform than when you are in civilian clothing. And I look around at the academics, the people, members of the diplomatic corps. I congratulate those who have arranged today's program. Very befitting, but not surprising given the leadership. You all remember Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo was a French poet and novelist. He it was who popularized the saying that nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Today we are all witnessing to the fruition, realization of an idea whose time has come. And that is the inauguration of the General Leo Irabor Early Warning Systems Center. Using an acronym, I call it the Lewis Center, the LIEWS Center. It's easier to accommodate in your vocabulary and for purposes of advocacy. I would like to congratulate you, Mon General, for being in this kind of position. I believe that we have before us an idea whose time has come. By the way, you find that the same Victor Hugo wrote a book in 1862 entitled Les Miserables. It's a book that I recommend to leaders of this nation and those who are interested in its progress. Les Miserables became very popular, perhaps the best novel in the 19th century, preaching love, preaching sincerity, preaching forgiveness, preaching cooperation and sacrifice and justice. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when an idea comes to its time of fruition, forces tend to come together to make it happen. And on this occasion, I can recognize three forces, like a triangle of forces. The first is an institute. The second is a director general. The third is a real general. And they've all combined with their constituencies to make this happen today under the grace of God. I look, for example, at this institute. When it was inaugurated in 1963, even though it had been established in 1961 by law, Sir Tafawa Balewa made an observation that this institute was meant to be a nursery of ideas on Nigeria's policy on international affairs. He even went forward to say that the institute would bring Nigeria to the world and the world to Nigeria. That was a hopeful political leader of our nation. Then the first chairman, if you look at the pictures around here, The first chairman was Sir Adit Tokunbo Ademola, Chief Justice of Nigeria, as he then was, even was more ambitious by saying it's a Nigerian institute situated in Lagos. It's an African institute situated in Nigeria. It's a world institute situated in Africa. That is some kind of omnibus agenda, which I think over the years, and because of the dynamics of change in our society, the Institute has tried to fulfill, which is why you are going to security and strategic studies and international areas of economic relations, politics, law, and so on. But what's relevant today, to today's occasion, has to do with peace and conflict studies. I believe that part of the realization of that is what is happening today by way of inauguration. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that's the first leg of the tripod. Second leg is the Director General of this institute. If you look around, we've had lots of Directors General. The very first one was somebody you should all know, Lawrence Apalara Fabumi, who was a historian, very highly recognized, and whose thesis in his PhD in the University of London had to do with Anglo-Egyptian relations and the problem with Sudan. Sudan is still there so many years later. And we go rapidly to now the latest person here, Professor Emmanuel Egosa Osage. Absolutely no doubt in my mind that this is a young man who, because of the grace and love of God on this institute, has been brought here at this time to get things to happen. Don't be deceived by his very simple, smiling, humble demeanor. He's a deep thinker, is an ambitious achiever, and you can see the kind of things he's enumerating. I can tell you, Prof, that from these things happening to you, the momentum will soon start, and you can't cope with the kind of patronage you will have. It reminds me of Juvenal. I keep talking to you. Your Decimus Junius Juvenal, the British call him just Juvenal of the first century, who spoke about the rara avis, the rare bird, rara avis in terris. A rare bird that nobody can see. It's like seeing a black swan. And Juvenal was talking about that. This prof here, this DG here, is a rara avis in the academic realm. And it's a source of pride. It's a source of pride. That's the second leg of what's aggregating here to make today a very historic thing. The third leg is what we must all talk about. And I'm now at this time talking about Leo Irabor, the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff. A year ago, you would never have thought that you would have this kind of occasion coming. But you were led by the Spirit to attend that occasion where we were and to have a discussion with this man with a fertile brain. And today, it is realized. Those of you who don't know, the Institute was already 4 years old before Leo was born. And here he is making an impact on this institution. Some people think that is Leo, like Leonine. No. Leo is actually Lucky, Eluonye, Onyenucha, Irabor. I think in the army, they capitalized the initials, but it sounded quite romantic to be called Leo. And, but he's done very well. There is absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind that his time with us as CDS has brought to focus, to sharpness, the fact that being in the military does not mute your opinions. in fact, enhances your opinion and also gives you the opportunity to make a contribution. And that if you are a good leader, the followers will follow you. This is the kind of leader we need in this kind of nation today. He has continued to fulfill what we call the 7 army values. The 7 army values of loyalty, of duty, of respect, of selfless service, of honor, of integrity, and of personal courage. You epitomize all this, and we are proud of you. So these 3 forces have got together. Well, it's left for me as chairman of this occasion to congratulate the Institute, to congratulate the management, the board for this happening, but especially to congratulate Leo, our brother, our friend, and our general for being part of this in such a very intimate way. But congratulating you alone, my dear brother, as you know, is not enough. Whether or not she's here, I would like you to take our congratulations and appreciation to your dear, charming wife, Barrister Victoria. So, having said all this, I hope that the Institute, under your direction, Prof, would hit the ground running. There is so much to do. Is it even Nigeria and its critical situation? Is it the Sudan crisis? Is it even things like the EU immigration policy vis-a-vis Nigeria, Africa? Is it China and its growing influence in the Gulf? Is it Ethiopia-Sudan relations now? Is it war in Ukraine? Is it changes in modern workplace living? Is it human rights and diplomacy? Is it even Israel and the UAE relationships as it affects us? It's about time we became the real Chatham of this region. And I know that with this kind of thing that is happening, you will so work hitting the ground running that what Nigeria needs is an institute like the NIIA. What Nigeria needs is a warning element like we are going to do today. The Yoruba people say, "Agbotele ogungo ki paro," which means even the lame will escape a war if given sufficient advance warning. However, you have a problem. Nigeria seems to be, for the time, a place where lots of ideas, lots of best policies, lots of laws are put in place, but they fall flat on their face because some of these documents are gathering dust on shelves, implementation is low or non-existent. Perhaps with this research center, you'll be surprised. Ideas will blossom. Network will be strengthened. Net worth of the NIIA will be strengthened. NIIA can then say, boastfully, beating his chest, that it has done everything to return to Nigeria the reputation, the respectability, the relevance, the recognition that Nigeria needs and deserves, such that traction will be given to the optics, the ecosystem, and the reliability of Nigeria in global recognition. I want to wish all of you good time in Nigeria. Stay strong, stay hopeful. Nigeria is about to do the turn. It is well with all of us. Thank you.
Another round of applause for our chairman. Thank you very much, Chairman. May I recognize the presence of the head of the Afro-Asian Community Development in Nigeria, Sanjay Sarabista. Be recognized, sir. Thank you very much. Whilst the program was on, the head of the NIIA Sports Diplomacy Desk came in. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the point where We invite Professor Remy Aide to deliver the keynote lecture. Professor, sir, you have the podium.
Yeah, it's okay. The Honorable Minister, ably represented here by the Ambassador, a great Uite, the Chairman of the occasion, His Royal Highness, the celebrant, and of course the guest, the special guest on this occasion, General Leo Irabor, the chief host, who is my teacher and has been a mentor and an inspiration, Professor Egosa Osagai. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think I should also recognize, I saw him, okay, our professor from the University of Ibadan, who has also been a great inspiration to us at the University of Ibadan, Professor Otubanjo. I think the story of the relationship between Great Ife and the University of Ibadan has not been concluded. And I just want to add a footnote that we are not antagonistic to people from the Obafemi Awolowo University. We only advise them always to come to Ibadan to upgrade their degree. At the first and the best. And they have always done so. So our friendship remains. It is a great pleasure to be here to talk to this topic today. In fact, I was enthused when Professor Osagai told me about the event that was going to take place and was really, really honored to be considered worthy enough to give the keynote. I've had an occasion to introduce the one-time Chief of Defense Staff, Oluseyi Pentinre, the General, when he came to Ibadan to give a lecture. So it's really a great pleasure to be here on this occasion when we celebrate the contributions of General Leo Irabor. I'll be talking about early warning systems and security architectures. It is a very important point of discussion, not only in Nigeria today, but across the world. Now, I start with two short stories. I'm sure everybody will remember that on Wednesday, 29th March 2023, the Department of State Services said it uncovered a plot for an interim government in Nigeria by some key players. And that created a lot of anxiety and worry in Nigeria. In fact, the controversies were so strong that it took over the media for over a week. And people were wondering whether that was an early warning or something else. Now this, We know that the DSS is one of Nigeria's intelligence agencies with the mandate to defend the Federal Republic of Nigeria against domestic threats, prevent and dictate and investigate threats of espionage, subversion, sabotage, terrorism, separatist agitations, and so on. It is indeed a very important security agency. Then this, between 2000 and 2019, at least 60 major disasters disrupted education for more than 11 million children. Within this time frame, nearly 35,000 children lost their lives in schools, and over 30,000 schools were destroyed, according to the Global Alliance Against Disaster Risk Reduction, and so on. In addition, the number of medium to large-scale disasters is projected to increase from 350 and 500 annually to about 560 by the year 2030. This is of particular concern in the light of the climate crisis, because each year breaks climate records, with the past 7 years having been the warmest years ever recorded in human history. These are very challenging situations, and the most important point that comes out of them is that we should take early warning systems very seriously. But what is the situation with early warning systems in Africa? Because we'll see that the establishment of this center, as Professor Sagai mentioned before, is a major development, because less than a third of countries in Africa have effective early warning systems in place. And the risk of losing one's life to extreme weather events is increasing faster in Africa than in other regions, according to Veracosta 2022. So it's a very serious situation and a major intervention. What then are early warning systems, and what are they used for? According to the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, early warning systems are integrated system of hazard monitoring, forecasting and prediction, disaster risk assessment, communication, and preparedness activities, systems, and processes that enables individuals, communities, governments, businesses, and others to take timely action to reduce disaster risks in advance of hazardous events. Now, this means that early warning systems are about knowledge focusing on risks. They provide knowledge. They enable us to understand the nature of risk and monitor and identify indicators that will point to us that risks are on the way, either being brewing or are imminent. And they also let us know what kind of responses are required. And if we don't have the capability to respond, then we begin to build those capacities. But one of the more important aspects of early warning system is that it generates alerts. It warns about the imminence of some kind of security, conflict, or crisis situation. And the point is, these alerts can only be meaningful when they are appropriately communicated to the right audience that are expected to understand the risk and respond appropriately. Now, different kinds of responses exist, ranging from fact-finding, mediation, peacemaking, dialogue, negotiation, preventive diplomacy, or more robust mechanisms such as sanctions. Thus, early warning can be an effective tool only if strongly linked to respondents. And I think that's where the point of the controversy around the DSS announcement came about. Now, in looking at early warning systems, there are 4 dimensions that we must pay attention to. The first, of course, is risk knowledge, and it means that data must be systematically collected and put together, aggregated, and the question will be, what are the hazards and vulnerabilities associated with the event that we are talking about? Is it known? What are their patterns and trends? And are there risk maps or other data widely available, or are they to be generated? The second part is that this data is not for the library. It's not to be kept in the bookshelf. It's supposed to be something used for monitoring and warning service. In other words, we are also concerned whether they are actually the right quality of data. Have we been able to generate the right parameters? And is there sound scientific basis for them? Are they accurate? Are they timely? Then, of course, the third is the dissemination and communication. How do we warn those who are supposed to act? How do we get them alert and prepared to understand the available to them and what they are supposed to use them for? So the quality of data is very important, because the data is not just, as I said before, to be given out, it is to be used. So we are concerned about response capability. In other words, the data can even be the basis of capacity building, of ensuring that the response plans are up to date and tested, ready to react to warnings. Because if you have an early warning system like the center that we are going to inaugurate in a few minutes, and as Prof has said, it contains the state-of-the-art facilities, we must make sure that it works according to expectation, it is sustained, and that those who are going to man it have the capacity to effectively do so, so that the early warning center can play the expected role in our society. Because as we'll find out later, it is not just a center to respond to domestic problems, which of course are in themselves very many, and some of them have been enumerated. It's supposed to respond to the needs of Nigeria and the friends of Nigeria, and then of course connect with West Africa and the African continent as a whole. So we need to clarify the fact that early warning systems is not monolithic. There are different types. They are diverse, and we can create a typology of the types that have evolved over the years. This is because when you look around, you find that the idea of early warning system is not something that is uncommon. In fact, in the preparation for the 2023 election, I encountered a number of civil society organizations and groups who developed early warning systems on electoral violence. And they were popularized as a very good instrument for measuring the integrity of that election. And we saw how it played out. So in all human spheres, whether in environment, finance, health, agriculture, food security, conflict management, and peace building, there are different early warning systems. In fact, as one medical practitioner says, early warning systems save lives. Because if you visit a doctor, one of the first things to do if they suspect anything is to assess your vital signs. And if they are okay with that, they rule out that you are not in a state of emergency. And so you see, these are early warning signs about how your matter should be handled. So for the purpose of typology, we have single integrated systems, what we call end-to-end catch-all early warning systems. We also have multi-hazard early warning systems that are designed to tackle different kinds of hazards, such as tsunamis, earthquakes, volcanic activities, and so on and so forth. We can go on to look at different areas, whether it's bonfires, whether it's biological hazards, and so on and so forth. You can have multiple systems that deal with a collection of this, or you have separate system, a single system that integrates all of these multiple hazards. Now, we can also classify early warning systems according to their levels. We have community level early warning systems. We have national level early warning systems, and we also have some at the regional levels. I'm sure some of us are aware of the continental early warning system of the AU, which is very vital to dealing with conflict situation in Africa. And we also have the ECOWAS early warnings and response system, which has been active in the West African sub-region. Now, they deal with all kinds of challenges, and one of the developments that we need to pay attention to now is the fact that technologies have evolved to address early warning systems in such a way that what began in a very rudimentary level in those early days of human civilization has become very sophisticated. In fact, in those days, they used to put bonfires on the hill to signal that there are problems, or ring bells. And when the siren came, it was actually one of the signs that was used for early warning, even though we know that now big men move around with sirens. But they were originally early warning mechanisms. Now, with the import of technology, especially space technology, a lot can be done, can be achieved in early warning systems. Satellite telecommunications and Earth observations are particularly very useful in transmitting data from sensors deployed in remote areas to observatories, where it is analyzed and used to elaborate forecasts regarding potentially catastrophic events. In fact, they can also be used to track cyclones, typhoons, hurricanes, and so on and so forth. If we look around, we'll find that there are, in fact, very huge centers, like the meteorological centers, that have been built to deal with early warning. And as Prof said earlier, they have made our life much more secure. But we know that a lot still needs to be done. As we noted before, natural disasters or man-made disasters continue to baffle humans and threaten our comfort, convenience, and social stability. And that's why increasingly, as security threats have become much more sophisticated, as crime has also increased in sophistication, we need to also study our early warning systems and security architectures. And we find that in recent times, even already well-established military organizations that have very reliable intelligence systems now talk about intelligence and early warning systems. You can see organizations like NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, joining the group and also developing their own early warning system. Early warning systems are very important. They can help clarify goals to be achieved, help in developing courses of action and their comparison, leading to better decisions of the actions to be taken, and implementation of choosing options. Indeed, it enables more realistic analysis of the reaction of the parties involved and enable them to create potential scenarios before they occur. But still, knowing how and when to intervene and what should be done in order to preempt such occurrences remains a very difficult task. And so there are still issues and challenges which we need to take into cognizance when we are operating the Early Warning System Center. One is to note that most early warning system focuses on early stages of information, assessment and analysis of such challenges. But with new security threats, this will not be adequate. Critical indicators must be continuously monitored, and the assessment must be integrated into crisis management and response measures and made available to decision makers. In fact, to be able to do this, because again we talked about the quality of data, the quality of monitoring that is expected, constant and consistent funding will be required. And even just as important, we need to continue to build capacity, even as we try to integrate newer and newer technologies. Planners and scientists will have to work together to promote the development of systems that are timely, relevant, understandable, affordable, and people-centered. In the case of the center that we are talking about, we need to begin to think about how to integrate both Western scientific ideas about early warning response and traditional practices of early warning response as we move from national to local communities. Because communication is key to ensuring that people are mobilized and prepared to deal and utilize the early warning system to deal with risk. It is also important that we also consider Nigeria's national security concept in trying to put the center in place. And we must cover both military and non-military risk indicators. And most importantly, we must recognize that instability, crisis, risk, concerns, and all other security threats that interest the continent and Nigeria should also be incorporated. The chairman, guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Thank you. You don't need those other mics, right? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Ede. Please, another round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Your Excellencies here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment we have all, especially all of us in the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, have been waiting for. We would like to hear from the man of the moment himself. I have a singular honor and privilege, a real privilege and honor it is, to welcome to the podium our own distinguished fellow of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, our own chief of the defense staff, General Irabor.
This this one. And that's the lady man want to talk.
Give it to him.
I think I'm sufficiently honored. If you don't mind, can I thank you?
Sorry, sir.
Why did you remove it? It's only because it's KAFTAN.
The Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say that I'm profoundly honored and indeed grateful to the DG and the management of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs for this rare privilege. Rare privilege in the sense that what we thought was an idea, or if you like, estimate of idea, has now resulted into this project to which I've been honored. I am most grateful. I'd like to thank you so very much. Let me especially thank the chairman of the occasion. Since the time I first met him to now, he has become a mentor. And indeed, he is a very huge motivator to me. He whispered to me that they were the pioneer set of Great Ife. And how blessed am I to be sitting almost all the time next to him. Even though the DG and of course those from Ibadan, I tend to, I've seen Prof also nodding his head. I tend to intimidate us, but you can't be intimidated. The idea, and I want to thank Professor Ide for this lecture. The idea for the early modern system for such an institute was well understood when Prof and I had a chat in my office. And most times, many people do not understand the nexus between the establishments, and in this case the armed forces, what their roles are, and how they cascade, or if you like, how they intermingle with the various MDAs and of course the established various stakeholders across the country. And so we, in our chat, I made known to him as to what we and the armed forces were doing to redress some of the security challenges within and indeed outside the country. And that in my headquarters and of course the services headquarters, we have a department and indeed a directorate called the Directorate of Campaign Planning. And that directorate, there are cells that look at different regions of our country and of course the sub-region and the world generally. What do? They gather data, they look at occurrences among several other issues, and in analyzing those occurrences, they try to forecast what possible role can come to the armed forces and begin to take measures to redress them. And this is precisely what I thought it was necessary that at a national level, I'm glad that the National Institute represents that national establishment that will look at, in broad terms, all areas of human existence to which certain analysis can be made, certain forecasting can be done, and then proper tasking can be given to the relevant MDAs to be able to take proactive actions or proactive measures so that we don't have to fight wars, so that we don't have to get into calamities among several things that we're confronted with. I'm glad that this is just the beginning, and Prof, you studied all in your lecture. looking at those four parameters that need to be undertaken. I think that most of them all, in my view, have to do with the capacity building for the responses when the forecasting has been done. And I like to say that I'm proud to be a part of this this enterprise, and hoping that we make progress together, so that we'll see and experience our nation, and in all its forms, that is peaceful, progressive, and indeed that it becomes a synergy of all eyes across the globe. Once again, let me thank you. And some time past, I whispered to the DG that my office used to be just a few meters away from here. Then, when Girls Brigade was here in Abuja, that was where I started my commissioned career in the Nigerian Army. And I also told him some of the flurry of activities that used to take place here in the institute, many of which I also attended at the time. And even when I was doing a research for my first master, I came from Ghana at the time, and I had some of the materials that I used for my thesis. And I think that it's been a good connection with the institute, and we hope to build on these interactions, hoping that our nation will be much, much better, and for legacies to be left for those who are coming behind. Once again, thank you. I'm so honored. God bless you.
Another round of applause for the CDS. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you know how they say success has many siblings. CDS, I'm one of your younger ones. So. Seriously, I was born in the month of August. I am new, 9th of August. No applause for me. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I want to invite us all to have a peek into the evolution of the Early Warning Systems Center. If my colleagues in the control room are ready, please, let's have the video of the evolution of the Early Warning Systems Center.
So we're very grateful that we see that this is the new window to the world that the NIIA is offering, and through this general view of what's
That applause could be louder. Your Excellencies here present, distinguished ladies, you saw how General space and transformed it into a story that will begin to unfold in the years to come. General, sir, congratulations. On a day like this, the Institute should be rolling out dromedaries of gift for you, General. But you know here, what we engage in is knowledge production. However, as a token of this gift-giving process that will remain eternal as far as the history and the life of this institute endures, we will begin with the first of such exercises. So I'd like to call the Executive Director of Gen Oil, Joy Oluwadamire. Please come forward and present the first of the series of gifts that the CDS will receive in appreciation for this icon of a project that he has bestowed on our institute. CDS, sir.
The Chief of Defense Staff, Sir, General Irabor, the General Manager of the DG of NIIA, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Ehoso Sagai, permits me to stand on the existing protocol. I'm here to unveil the project fame Irabor Early Warning System Center on behalf of the executive company, General Integrated Service. May I humbly invite the CDS for the unveiling. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, General Irabor, the Chief of Defense Staff, the Chairman and the representative of the Honorable Minister, sir, and the Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. On behalf of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, the project management team, we have another gift to unveil with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
you.